If you thought logic was invented by the Greeks, think again. Roughly 2,500 years ago, around the same time as Socrates was annoying people in the Athenian marketplace, a sage named Gautama was building something just as disruptive, only quieter. He wasn't interrogating ethics or metaphysics, at least not at first. He was more interested in how we know anything at all and how we can be sure it's true. In other words, epistemology, logic, debate, argument, proof. Gautama wasn't interested in what to believe. He wanted to know how belief itself should work. Today, we know him as the founder of Nyaya, one of the 6 classical schools of Indian philosophy, a tradition that shaped everything, from metaphysics to courtroom procedure, theology to cognitive science. Centuries before Descartes had his first doubt, let's meet the man who built the oldest surviving system of logic in the world. Gautama, also called Akṣapāda, is thought to have lived between the 6th and 2nd century BCE. Scholars disagree, as usual. What we do know is that he authored the Nyaya Sutras, the foundational text of new philosophy. Nyaya literally means method or rule, but it came to stand for a tradition of rigorous logical analysis. Think of it as a system for philosophical cross-examination, centuries before the Socratic method was formalized. Nyaya Sutras aren't a casual read. They're terse, technical, often cryptic, but they laid out a structure of reasoning so precise that in India, you couldn't make a theological claim without passing to Gautama's gate. The Nyaya system is built around 4 pramanas: valid means of knowledge, perception, pratyaksa, inference, anumana, comparison analogy, upamana, verbal testimony, versabda. Let's break these down. Perception is straightforward. Direct sensory experience. Touching fire tells you it's hot. Smelling smoke tells you it's probably dinner time, or something's gone very wrong. Inference is where it gets spicy. You see smoke on a hill, you infer fire. But for Nyaya, this only works if the inference has proper structure. A general rule where there's smoke, there's fire. An observed instance, I see smoke on the hill. It's not enough to guess. You need a bridge between evidence and conclusion. Comparison allows you to learn about new things via an analogy. Imagine someone tells you what a cow is by comparing it to a horse with horns. You now have knowledge, even though you've never seen a cow before. Testimony. Finally is trust in credible communication. Think scripture, expert opinion, or your friend telling you the bus is late. The key is the source has to be trustworthy. You're not just believing anything that shows up on your feed. Gautama's insight. These aren't just philosophical theories, they're how you function every day and how truth works, even in a courtroom, a lab, or a lecture hall. The Greeks had syllogisms. Gautama had the Pankavayava, the 5-part argument. Proposition pratina, there is fire on the hill. Reason, hetu, because there is smoke. Example, udaharana, wherever there is smoke, there is fire, like in a kitchen. Application, upanaya, there is smoke on the hill. Conclusion, nigamana, therefore, there is fire on the hill. It's elegant, it anticipates empirical reasoning, and it ensures that your logic doesn't just sound right, it holds. Nyaya logic was used in debates between Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain thinkers for centuries. This wasn't ivory tower stuff, it was live ammunition. One of the most intense intellectual rivalries in ancient India was between Nyaya and Buddhist epistemology, particularly the thinkers like Nagarjuna and Dignaga, who challenged how we define knowledge, inference, and self. Gautama's The System affirmed the reality of the external world, enduring self and valid cognition. The Buddhists often the opposite. Where Gautama saw reliable perception, Nagarjuna saw illusion. When Nyaya saw soul, Atman, the Buddhists often the opposite. But here's what's remarkable. They argued not through theology, but logic. Pages and pages of counter-arguments, rebuttals, analogies, centuries before Europe would rediscover Aristotelian reasoning. It was a philosophical arms race, and Gautama started it. You might think Gautama was just an ancient logic nerd, but Nyaya was always more than argument for its own sake. Its ultimate goal was liberation, moksha, freedom from suffering, from delusion. But unlike the mystical approaches of Vedanta or yoga, Nyaya claimed that wrong thinking causes suffering and right thinking can end it. If you believe falsely, you act falsely. If you understand rightly, you live rightly. In that sense, Gautama was less like a metaphysician and more like a cognitive therapist. 2,000 years ahead of schedule, you've used Nyaya logic. If you've ever argued with someone on Reddit and cited a source, trusted an expert because of their credentials, noted smoke, and decided not to go camping that day. Gautama's method shaped Indian jurisprudence, theological debate, even grammar and linguistics. Modern scholars of argumentation theory still cite Nyaya. Its rigor, its categories, and its relentless demand for clarity are universal. It's no surprise that the word Nyaya in modern Hindi simply means justice. Thales gave us unity, Anaxagoras gave us mind, and Gautama gave us the rules to talk about it without shouting. He taught that truth isn't loud, it's precise. That debate isn't chaos, it's craft. And that liberation might just begin with thinking better. In an age of disinformation, Gautama's method is more than relevant, it's necessary. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more stories from the roots of philosophy. There's plenty more where this came from. Hope to see you soon.